Caucasians, typically tall in stature, pale light skin, eyes are brown, green, blue, hazel, or gray. Hair is black, brown, blonde, or red, nose is long and narrow. Sub-Saharan Africans, fair in stature, skin in various shades of brown to black, eyes are dark brown or black, hair is black and produces oil. Asians, short in stature, skin is yellow or yellow-brown, eyes are small and almond-shaped, noses are flat, hair is black. Race divides us into groups based on physical characteristics and geographic origins. We identify ourselves with a race or multiple races and embrace it into our lifestyle. But race simply doesn't exist, at least not genetically. There is not one genetic trait that only belongs to a specific racial group. Sure, certain physical characteristics are more common within a race, but according to Seattle Times, none are exclusive, and there are more genetic differences within a racial group than between racial groups. Thus, race is purely a result of social construction. Social construction creates meanings that are based off of social interactions, and despite the fact that there is no scientific basics behind these meanings, they have real effect on our lives. According to philosopher Lucas Outlaw, race is an idea based off of economic, cultural, and social evolution in response to historical factors. Philosopher Bauman introduces an idea where society morphs into the mold and the environment it is placed in, resembling a liquid. History is a mold in which society is morphed. For example, 60 years ago, the idea of blacks and whites attending the same school was frowned upon, but today it's a social norm. This change in education parallels the change as race is viewed by society. For example, listen to this excerpt. They are distinctly marked, the black tint of skin. They are ignorant, thriftless, poor, intemperate, and barbarian. Of course they will violate our laws, will commit great crimes of violence, even capital offenses, which certainly have increased as of late. Ask anyone from this century which race they believe this excerpt is suggesting, and the most common answer will be African American. But this is not the case. This excerpt was written in the late 19th century referring to Irish immigrants who struggled to assimilate in America. Clearly, as society changes, so does its view on race, and even race categories. In America, in 1790, the only race categories that were available for one to identify with were free white males, free white females, all other free persons, and slaves. In 1880, the options expanded to white, black, mulatto, Chinese, and Indian. In 1950, the U.S. Census officially established white, black, American Indian, Asian Indian, Japanese, Chinese, Filipino, Korean, Native Hawaiian, Vietnamese, and other Asian. For social construction that is ever-changing, race plays a crucial role in our everyday lives. Although race doesn't exist genetically, the meaning that society constructed around it makes it a reality that has real influences in your life. It can impact the college you attend, the job you acquire, or even the level of your self-esteem and confidence. Take the story of Suze Gilroy Phibbs. Phibbs had lived her whole life as a white woman. At age 43 in 1977, Phibbs applied for a passport where she learned that her birth certificate said she was colored due to the one-drop rule. She was 0.09% African American. Phibbs was so shocked by this discovery she claimed to be physically sick for 3 days. Now consider this social experiment by Pager published by American Journal. Two groups of 23-year-old male college students with equal credentials. The first group consisted of 2 Caucasian males and the second group consisted of 2 African American males. One student from each group was randomly selected to have a criminal record, and all 4 males were to apply to similar jobs. The intention of this experiment was to determine whether or not a criminal record could impact the selection of employees by employers. Instead, it found that 14% of black men without records were called back, which was a proportion equal to the number of whites with a criminal record. Thus, the effect of race was equal to or greater than the effect of a criminal record. Affirmative action. Practically every prospective college student is familiar with this policy, and depending on what race they are labeled as, they either love it or hate it. It's an active effort to improve the employment or educational opportunities of members of minority groups and women. Many refer to it as reverse discrimination, and those who get the short end of the stick argue that it should not be enforced and meritocracy should be put in its place. But studies have claimed that if affirmative action were to be lifted in the college admissions process, it would decrease acceptances for African Americans by 18% and only increase acceptances for whites by 0.5% and for Asians over 5%. Let's contemplate Caltech, a university in the top 10 rankings of the United States and one of the few universities in the nation that do not use affirmative action in their admissions process. 40% of their student profile is Asian American, 31% is Caucasian, and 0.9% is African American. That's roughly 9 African American students out of a population of 900 students. At Caltech, they base their acceptances off of numbers and extracurriculars. You either qualify for admission or you don't. Race doesn't matter. If you really think about it, the concept of race and the influence it has on our lives is simply ridiculous. It is as real as it is fake. We allow the power of race to mandate our lives and how we live it. But in reality, the power is within us, and as long as we subject to these influences, race will always exist, at least in our minds.